Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. I am Matt.
I'm Heather.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Alex.
And we are now on to episode 16 of the BTW pod. We'd like to welcome in all our friends, old and new. Huge thank you to everyone who has joined us week to week, has dropped a follow, has left a review. We have a totally loaded show. I know I say each week we have a loaded show, but this week especially is loaded with Kraken news, game recaps, checking down in Coachella Valley, and then a discussion about the hockey world around the sound table. We're going to open things up with Heather's Kraken news update, so lay it on us, Heather.
Okay, lots going on in the Kraken world this week, so I'll try to keep it as succinct as I can, but I'm going to start with injuries because we have some updates and some good news. I'll start with Jordan Eberle, first of all. Wow, if you've seen any videos from practice, he's really zooming around on the ice. It's really good to see. He's still kind of skating alone, working with a skills coach, but it's super promising. And it's still amazing to me that he had some unprecedented injury, pelvis surgery, no walking or weight bearing for 8 weeks. And then here he is actually able to skate. I am just amazed at him. So really good news there. I'm happy for him, happy to see him. Now to some not so great news. I'm going to start with Yanni Gourde. Yanni was out for a while and we weren't really getting a big update except that he had a mid-body injury. And I was starting to get worried because when that happens, it's usually not super good news. So on the 31st, Friday, the news came out that he had undergone successful surgery for a sports hernia and would be out 5 to 7 weeks. Coach Baalsma said after practice on Saturday that Gourde tried to rest and rehab the injury initially, but the tipping point for surgery was a recent evaluation and called the 5 to 7 week window for Gourde's return broad strokes timeframe for recovery. Also of note here, the trade deadline is March 7th, which is about 5 weeks away, 4.5-ish. So he was definitely someone who and I think all of us thought was most likely going to be traded around that time or before it. So that really puts a damper on that because that's definitely not happening at this point. Also in the injury news, we have Ryker Evans. Ryker is currently day-to-day with an upper body injury. On the 3rd, which is today, Monday the 3rd, he was at practice and he did a few drills, but he was in a red jersey. Coach Baalsma said it was a positive sign in his progress and he took some good steps today. But if you remember in the last pod, I talked about a bunch of injuries and him being out of practice and then playing. I just always assume it's going to be that same injury. It looked like his wrist maybe, but that's just conjecture. I'm just going off what we kind of saw in eye test, but I'm going to guess that's what that is. A fun little piece of news is that Yanni Newman replaced Cale Fleury in the AHL All-Star Weekend, which was yesterday the 2nd, and then it's also kind of taking place right now. They're doing a game right now, but it was kind of a replacement, it was a replacement for Cale Fleury because Cale Fleury was called up. I'm going to talk about some roster moves in a bit, but Ryker was out of the lineup, which we talked about. So Cale Fleury has up, and that means that he was unable to participate in this All-Star Weekend. So Yanni Newman came in, and to me, that's well-deserved. He's been playing so well, and I'm actually really happy for him. And it was really fun to watch him yesterday in the skills competitions. You never like to see somebody lose the opportunity like Cale, but that's kind of how these things work. Yesterday, the Eastern Conference won the skills competition, and they're currently playing Western, Eastern, and kind of a round-robin 3-on-3 tournament tonight. So Yanni did win race number 4 in the first event, which was a puck control relay. So that was fun to watch. The Coachella Firebirds did put that on X if you want to go watch it. And something cool about the All-Star Weekend is that the events were actually played for free, streaming for free for fans to watch on YouTube, Facebook, and X, which I think is super cool because it's a really fun event to watch these younger players really kind of shine. Okay, I'm going to talk roster moves. There's a big one in here. Let me talk about a couple of things. So Cale Fleury was called up, talked about that. That's to kind of slot in for Ryker. Gustav Olofsson was also called up on emergency basis, but he has since been sent back down. They do that when they can't say they have 6 healthy defensemen. So when they said they do, then they have to send him back down since it was emergency call up. So The big roster move here, though, is that Phillip Grubauer was placed on waivers with the intention of reassigning him to Coachella Valley. He unsurprisingly cleared waivers and was reassigned to Coachella Valley. I'm going to talk about roster moves. I'm going to talk about implications, and then I want to open this up for discussion because I know we all have a lot to say about this. But in the time that Gru was on waivers, Firebirds recalled Victor Ostman from the KC Mavericks, our ECHL team, and Alex Stezka was called up to the Kraken from the Firebirds. Alex Stezka has been around to back up Joey in Seattle. Ostman was there to back up Coco in Coachella for the first game since Gru was still working through the waivers portion of this. And then now that it's all settled, Ostman has been sent back to the Mavericks. Gru is officially in Coachella Valley. And the overall impact of that is that Joey Decord is clearly goalie 1A. Sorry, Derek. And Alex Stezka will be backing him up. And then in the Firebirds, we have Nikki Coco and Phillip Grubauer for the time being. Don't know exactly how that tandem's going to work, but that is where they are right now. So the Kraken are still going to be responsible for his full salary, but doing this does free up 1.15 million of cap space. That's the max that can be buried in any contract. And he can be called back up to Seattle at any time. Coach Bilesma said to KJR, "We felt it was a good option to assign to Coachella Valley. We can play him, get his game to where we all know and have seen it. It's been in the past." The day after this happened, there was a pretty heavy mood for the press briefing. People like Adam Larson said, "It's a friend that's not here now. We got really close. During the season, you see your teammates more than your family, so we get really close with these guys." Jaden Swartz said, "It's hard. He's a great teammate and a great friend. He's been here since the beginning, so it's tough. We haven't been good enough collectively, and in a way, he takes the fall for a lot of us not playing up to potential, not playing well as a team. A lot of us take responsibility for that. He's such a great friend, teammate, and works hard." For me personally, it's kind of like you have to look at the two sides of the coin here, right? The logical side and the emotional side. From an emotional standpoint, of course, you never like to see this happen to anyone. And it has to be so hard for Grubauer struggling. I mean, that's hard for any athlete when you're struggling and your game isn't where you think it should be or could be or has been. For the team, to me, this is the right move. It's been kind of a question of what to do with Grubauer as of late. And I think the Kraken sort of hit this point where it was time to make some sort of decision or move with him. And that's kind of where we are. You know, I feel for him as a person. I hope that he can, potentially come back and, play well. But I think we're just to this point where something had to happen. He's getting paid so much and he was really, really struggling. Now, part of that is defense. We've had a ton of defensive breakdowns during the games as well. And he's the last line of defense, right? So at some point, he also has to, kind of take responsibility there as well. So really tough week for that. But I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts here too.
Piggybacking off your defensive breakdowns I believe it was after the Anaheim game in the Dan Bylsma presser, it was Darren Brown from Sound of Hockey. He asked, "Do you feel, Dan, that this team, the defense plays disproportionately poorly in front of Gru compared to Joey?" And Dan's answer was just a quick straight up no, which I think is pretty telling of this decision. Like to me, how it sounds is this team plays very poorly defensively in front of both guys, but Joey's there actually bailing us out. But you can't say the same for Gru. So, at personal side, it goes back to like the Borgen trade when that happened. But I feel there's a big difference in how this one was handled online. When the Borgen trade happened, everyone was in tears and in shambles, and that sounded like the worst thing ever had happened. And this one came across much more like torches and pitchforks, and everyone's saying about damn time. So I wasn't super psyched on how it was all put out there by some people of the internet community, but that's the internet for you. That's how it's going to go. But I do think that it was kind of a about time thing that this was bound to happen.
It was about it was time, but I think it was time a while ago. And kind of, piggybacking on what Matt said, like as a like for Grubauer as a person, like this sucks. Like you hate to see this see anyone go through something like this. Like that's just terrible. But the writing's been on the wall for quite some time, and I think that's where you have to look at this with with no emotion, more of a statistical based mind, and say there's been plenty of times that we've given Grubauer the benefit of the doubt. And I know some people might not agree, but when you look at it statistics wise, goals against save percentage over the last 4 seasons that Grubauer has been with the Kraken: 889, 895, 899, 866. That's not backup goaltending even worthy. And when you're spending $5.9 million a season and that goaltender can't produce to the level of even of a backup, it's time. And with the way that Joey's been playing this season, you need to just let him, you just got to let him play. And it's for Grubauer now, it's sink or swim. It's figure it out with Coachella, and perhaps you're going to get recalled back to the team and play more games, or it's going to be you're going to stay here for the rest of the season. And quite honestly, it seems apparent at this point that a buyout's going to happen in the offseason. Whether he gets called up or not, I think that's where we're heading no matter what. But that also comes, but now I'm also torn because do you let Grubauer play in as many games in Coachella and take the opportunities away from Nicholas Coco? And so like that's where the other issue I'm kind of running into, because if for those of you who don't know, Nicholas Coco has a record of 14 wins and 3 losses in the AHL this season. And it seems wrong to take away an opportunity for him to become the starting 1A goaltender for the Firebirds with Stetska being called up to the NHL. So goalie wise, it's a weird predicament to be in because you want Grubauer to find his game, but at the same time, you don't want to take game time away from Coco. Decord's going to be playing all the games. Stetska's just going to be there as the backup. The only time he'll ever play is during a back-to-back. But at the end of the day, this was something that needed to be done. I hope he figures it out. I hope he finds his game. But at the end of the day, I think we've kind of teetered along the line for far too long, and this decision has been waiting for far too long. And I'm still surprised on the amount of shocked individuals there were, all over social media saying, I can't believe this happened. Emotionally, yes, I get it. Statistically, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah. I just want to preface my statement with the caveat that I believe fans should be able to enjoy any sort of players or the game in whatever way they want to. Yeah, just want to start with that. Second thing, I want to go back to what Matt said following the Bilesma statement. Absolutely hit the nail on the head, Matt, with defense being bad in front of both goalies. That made me smile. You can go back and watch it later. That made me smile how correct that take was, in my opinion. In fact, there's a strong argument that the defense plays worse in front of Decord, and I'm going to break that down right now. So Grubauer has 21 games played and averages 2.66 expected goals against in the games that he plays. Decord has played 35 games and averages 2.91 expected goals against in each of the games that he plays. Now you're probably like, oh, okay, then Grubauer's probably let in less goals above expected then because he's expected to let in less. Grubauer has negative 17.5, which is worse than the league, and Decord has 19.0 positive, which is third best in the league. Yeah, so it's not even close. Decord has a worse defense on average in front of him and performs just monumentally better. So yeah, nothing really to say other than, like Alex said, worse than backups, but also like Heather said, two sides of this, and Grubauer is probably one of the coolest people on the Kraken, in my opinion, personally, and really love his horse girl stuff. I saw actually today he posted on his story. This is something too. He was in Ellensburg, Washington today. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think he has a relationship here, so he also is probably trying to figure out his time and how he's spending it.
Doesn't he also live in Washington full time, like year round?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
but like Ellensburg is like
does.
Ellensburg is far. Ellensburg is also far out, and like, is he back up here right now? Is the AHL like having a
AHL is having a break, so it makes sense that he would be here. They have their All-Star break right now, so it totally makes sense that he would be here. But yeah, I think that's,
okay, gotcha.
I think he probably had to go down, rather quickly, and maybe now he can gather some more things to be there a little more permanently.
Back on his horse girl grind. Let's
Yeah.
go. Yep.
And
But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I want to say just two more quick little thoughts. Is one, like, I think we're all thankful for Grubauer and how he played, in the playoffs in particular. It was like next level Grubauer then. And also, I am also torn about, taking that opportunity away from Coco right now, who really needs the reps. And I think that's a really tough place to be. And I hope that they're able to sort of split that appropriately so that Gru can work on his game, but also not take every start away from Coco, because he deserves it too. And it's been really fun to just watch him develop over this season. Just this season, he's just monumentally grown. So I'm also torn there too.
Alex brought it up, so I'm just wondering if someone can explain, like I'm five, how buyouts work, because I have no idea on that concept.
So, in regards to how a buyout works, so in the NHL, a buyout is when a team pays a player a portion of their remaining salary to the end of their contract early. So, the buyout amount is spread out over twice the remaining years of the contract. So, how much is the buyout? So, for players 26 and older, the buyout is 2/3 of the remaining salary. And for players under 26, the buyout is 1/3 of the remaining salary. Signing bonuses are not included in the buyout.
Hopefully, the 5-year-old listenership out there got their heads around that.
Wait, so Alex, can you plug in the numbers for what the Gru one would be? That way we know, or do we know already? Like what that would look like?
If the Kraken bought out Phillip Grubauer in the offseason. So for those of you who know, he's got 2 years left after this season at $5.9 million a year. If the Kraken were to buy him out, the total cost would be $6,733,332 and a saving of $3,366,668. Buyout cap hit. So in the 2025-2026 season, it would be $1,983,333. And then with a saving of $3,916,667. The final year of his contract, which would be the 26-27 season, the buyout cap hit would be $3,083,333, savings of $2,816,667. There's the kicker where he has 2 more years left on this buyout. So for the 27-28, 28-29 seasons, the buyout cap hit will be $1,683,333 a piece. That's what you'd be looking at. On the other side of things, with the news about the cap increasing, that's pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, wait, so if I understand correctly, it's like 1.8 or 1.9 mil per year pretty much on the cap.
Basically, like it's just shy of 2 million next year. It'd be over 3 million the last year, and then 1.7 basically for the last 2 years.
Gotcha.
Well, we talked about kind of the most heavy-hitting news of the week, and we had a rather up and down week on the scoreboard. What are we feeling our vibes are like this week with our beloved Seattle Kraken?
I just kind of want the trade deadline to be here. Like, I hate to say it, we're watching such a mid team. There's not much excitement about this team. We're kind of just, sitting in the wings, hoping for something to happen. Trades are happening across the NHL, and the Kraken really aren't doing much. So, they can beat the bottom feeders for the most part, but they're getting smacked around the ice for the rest of the NHL. So, I don't know. We got 5 weeks until the deadline, so I don't know. It's one of those seasons where you just got to endure it, because that's kind of where we're at right now.
I don't know. I got really irritated this week. Like, I don't know, like a switch was flipped for me. Just, I've been squarely in the camp of like, we need to play people like Shane Wright more, give him more minutes. And I think now I've just gone off the deep end in this regard. Like the whole Grubauer team thing, like the aging team, like it. And then what put me over the edge actually was when we saw at practice that Berkey was going to be on Shane Wright's line. And I was like, this does not help this kid at all. This is not going to elevate his game. This is not going to help him at all. Like, I couldn't take it after that. I was like, I know it's silly, but like, I can't. So what I'm worried about is that this organization, and I've said it probably a billion times now, this organization does not have an interest in developing these younger players at the NHL level right now, because they're so focused on trying to please the owners and the season ticket holders and try to win and get to the playoffs, which I'm sorry is not happening. So I'm just over it. I'm ready for like new, fresh players coming in. Like it's why I've been screaming about Ryan Winterton coming up and players like that, because I just think we have to move forward from this season and we need the younger players to play. So bring them up, give them a chance. And I just think that's where I am right now. I'm over the rest of this. I'm over just they have no answers again this season for what's going wrong, and it's kind of getting old. So just fresh, ready for fresh, and I'm just going to try to enjoy the rest of the season. And I think like we've talked about, just focus on those little things, focus on watching some of these younger guys, and that includes people like Riker Evans and Ty Cartier and Capo Caco, and like watching them develop and hopefully have the time to develop. That's all I really want right now.
Can I just jump in really quickly? Because I completely agree with you on this. And I think one of the biggest frustrating things about this is that the Kraken have, as of recording tonight, the Kraken have a 1.4% chance of making the playoffs. 99.9% of the NHL Kraken fans, non-hockey related fans, know that there's no way in hell the Kraken are making the playoffs. But for some reason, this upper management is not going to do a damn thing about it. They're going to trade their assets for mediocre talent, expecting the unexpected to do something. And that's the thing that pisses me off. And I think Heather just kind of like lit a fire all of a sudden, because it's frustrating. Because I think, kind of bring it back to Yanni Gord. We could have traded him last year. We're gonna let him walk. Or hell, Ron Francis is gonna re-sign him because hey, why not? And this is the same song and dance every single year under this management group. And yeah, it's frustrating because, why is Shane Wright playing 14 minutes a night? Throw him in the deep end, give him 18. Why not? What's it going to do? Hurt him? Probably not. It's not going to hurt our playoff chance. That ship sailed. So, figure it out. Like, bring up Ryan Winterton. Get rid of the players that we know we're not going to keep. Bring up the youth movement, and let's just have some fun. I'm sick and tired of watching Brandon Tanev on the fourth line. I'm sick and tired of hearing Yanni Gord is still injured. I'm sick and tired of watching Bubble Boy Berkey, list lazily to the left and do F all. Because let's be serious, that's what he does. F all. Our only good old vet player is Jaden Schwartz. And I think I'm gonna hate to see it when he gets dealt either this season or next. Jordan Eberle, I miss the guy. I can't wait for him to be back because he's our captain. But other than that, this team is just filled with mid. And you can't go far when you have mid. And so it's time to, cut the fat and figure it out. Because at this point, if we're watching this team, the same team next year, I don't know what I'm gonna like. I'm gonna lose my mind. And
no, we cannot.
No, God no. And I really hope that we have a different management group, because if Ron Francis is at the helm next year, so help me God, I will literally go insane.
Also, how many times have we said in a game, like, wow, that was a great play started by Shane Wright? Like, just
Honestly,
give the kid some more minutes.
You could do a drinking game. Hey, that was a great play by Shane
Have
Wright.
we ever done that before?
We probably haven't. But if we did, ooh, that'd be a fun stream.
No. Derek thinks we have never said that Shane Wright started a good play. That's what Derek's saying, because he knows it's going to rile me up. It's fine. I get it. It's fine.
Well, my vibe check isn't quite as spicy and fiery as that just was, so I feel it's going to really bring it down. And I just have a real mix in my vibes this week. There are certainly some positives. Seeing Ebbs get the zoomies going around the ice, that's an awesome thing. Chandler Stevenson continuing to get points as the Pro Stevie pod. Absolutely love it. He's chasing down, he's nipping at Jared McCann's heels for the top point getter. Monty had a 2-goal game, so clearly he listened to our last episode when I asked where did Monty go, and Tolvi had a 4-game goal streak, which was awesome. We love to see that. There was a few downers. We already talked about the Gru news, bummed for the guy, but I'm glad that they actually pulled the trigger and took that step. It gives me some semblance of hope that we might start working towards a youth movement Kraken 2.0 for next season. And if we have a younger team next season and we still suck, I'm going to have much more fun with that, building up a crappy team, but has youth and potential, than having a bunch of older guys that just aren't making those slots available. The Yanni surgery update was very much not good, especially when you looked at every other article coming out saying Yanni Gord could fetch a first round pick at the trade deadline. He's number 4 on TSN's trade bait board. That's not good. So I guess we got to put all our eggs in the Brandon Tanev basket for March 8th or whatever that day is and see if something happens with him. But overall, in terms of the team, I think we had a decently well played week. Yesterday's game was kind of crappy and unlucky. San Jose game, yes, it's against the bottom feeder team, but we had fun with that one. The Edmonton one was kind of close. I didn't feel too awful this week.
I mean, you summed up the week kind of nicely there at the end. I mean, really what it was, I think there was a decent game against Edmonton, right? And then like obviously we blow it against the Ducks, but I mean that's the game that sent Gru back down to the minors. So I mean, how much can you say about that? Yeah, we played the Sharks, we won that one, but and then yeah, Calgary kind of I feel like undressed the Kraken a little bit. That was not very good at a lot of points in that game, but really I think what it all comes down to is kind of what everyone has said here, especially Alex, but just with management not really willing to commit to like having a certain posture, like the rebuild posture, and still kind of stagnating with the same guys that we've seen. Really, it might be some sort of like sunk cost fallacy, where like during free agency you go out and you get Chandler Stevenson, Brandon Montour, you extend Larson, his contract. You're just paying all these old guys a ton of money. Um, Very old guys, they're all over 30. Um, and so you're paying all these old guys a bunch of money. And really at this point, you have to like look at yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, I just wasted all that money. Like now I gotta pivot on that and turn the other direction. I think it's a lot easier to say, no, 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 no. I made the right decision. We just need to wait for things to pan out. We need to add one more piece or something. That's usually how this thing kind of goes with GMs. I feel like they're like, oh no, we're just one piece away. So I fear that that's where the Kraken might be heading, just with the amount of long-term contracts we have. It's very scary when you look at it from that perspective. There would need to be a lot of offloading occurring, which would probably require like an overhaul of all the management. So if the team rolls with Ron Francis going forward, I definitely think there will be an attachment to the long-term contracts that we have currently. And that might be fun. It might be fun. We add a couple more pieces. We stay in this mid to maybe competitive window. It could be. You never know. In the second year, it was very fun. And honestly, I think that was probably a worse team than the one we currently have. You're rolling the dice with low odds. It's definitely not good structure. It's not good process. The best process move would be like what everyone is saying, going to a youth movement, developing our farm, moving forward that way. Especially with guys, in the prospect pool coming up, like Ray Kopp, Chalet, Berkeley Catton, guys like that are just gonna absolutely pop off. So I definitely want to see the room cleared for them. See Shane Wright start to turn it up. Hopefully, Matty Beniers can flip a switch, but I don't know. It's the same as it's been, to be honest. Vibes was.
Can I just say though, with if you're looking at like adding additional like talent in the off season, you're completely negating the fact that you have all this young talent in Coachella. Like how is Yager Furkus going to crack the lineup? How is Yanni Neiman, Ryan Winterton, Edward Chalet, like all these players are in the next couple of years going to be cracking the lineup in the roster. But if you're going to be like, oh well, Buddy who's 27 or 28, oh, we can give him a 6-year contract. That's going to push, all these prospects down, and they're going to be 25, 24, 25, still playing in the AHL, or, the Kraken are going to be like, we're going to have to trade you because, you're too good for the AHL, but we've, put our hands behind our back and, we're screwed because, upper management keeps handing out these contracts. And I don't think anybody, and
Oh, you mean like the 7-year
yeah,
ones to the 30-year-olds?
no, but like
Yeah.
like think about it. Like I know you mentioned like, oh, we might have a chance, but like, do you really want to watch this team game season in, season out, where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna compete for, the playoffs, and then by mid-January be out of the playoff picture entirely. And, them
Yep.
unwilling to trade off their expiring contracts and whatnot because, you have a general manager who is a little flaky and gets a little nervous when it comes to trading. Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, shame on me again. But fool me a fourth time, you're probably Ron Francis.
All right. We had 4 games on the schedule this week. Derek, why don't you take us through our first game?
All right, as I alluded to earlier, I don't think this one was like that bad, to be honest. We played the Oilers here. We lost 4-2. Caveat, there was an empty net goal, right? So really you're looking at a 3-2 during like regulation or sorry, like 5-on-5 play. And so the story here started with 16 minutes and 23 seconds left in the first period. When Ellie Tolvanen, he banged in a rebound following a 2-on-1 that was actually generated by Shane Wright in the defensive zone. There was a pass between two players that were attacking, and it looked like Shane was like watching it in slow motion because like he just like kind of stuck his stick out exactly where the pass was going to go, intercepted it, and moved it the other way. He was busting down the ice with John Hayden. They were on a 2-on-1. John Hayden like pushed the net. Wright sent it over, but it leaked out to Tolvanen, who banged it in. So that was really nice. Love to see that. Um, it then became 1-1 when the Oilers got their first goal of the game, which happened at 5 minutes and 33 seconds left in the first. Connor Brown of the Oilers was just kind of like standing off to the left side, like on the left side of the circle. Um, so like to it was Joey this game. To Joey's right, all the way on the right perimeter, so very far away. And Mahura was in like a net front battle with Yanmark, who he like deflected it in like with his body. It was kind of dumb. Like I don't know about you guys, but when I was watching that goal, I was like, how did that even go in? Like that doesn't even make sense. So very fluky goal in my opinion. Extremely low percentage shot. We got Joey in. Like this is not going in like 99 times out of 100 in my opinion. Um, okay, I don't think there's anything you can really do there about that first goal. The Kraken responded about 3 minutes later, which is nice to see with 2 minutes left when Vince Dunn, he sent a bouncing like flutter puck that just kind of like just hopped over Pickard like right at the end. It was like those onside kicks that you see in the NFL or like a ground ball in baseball where it just like bounces right at the end and goes over. That's pretty much what happened. That was assisted by Beniers, so that's cool. We went into the first intermission up 2-1 to against a very good team, and they had McDavid back, so I was feeling pretty good. And that's why I say like this game, it was pretty competitive. We won the first period, obviously. In the second period, with 18 minutes left, McDavid, the difference maker here, he accounted as the third forward in a 3-on-2 rush going toward Joey. Um, McDavid, with his speed, he was able to squeeze past Riker. Riker was playing super far to the left on the attacking forward. Think of it as like a 2-on-2, but McDavid was the center that was back, so he was able to join the rush, basically outskate everybody else, have the most speed. He was probably going 25 miles an hour, was able to just get the puck right as he passed Riker. It was perfect timing, so he's alone 1-on-0 by the time the tops of the circle happens. He shoots it, gets his own rebound off to the right, and bangs it right in. It was pretty crazy. Joey misread it, thought it was going to the right, but it was going to the left, and that's where McDavid ended up just banging in his own rebound. Pretty crazy play. And then with 10 minutes and 22 seconds left in the second, the Kraken lost possession in the offensive zone. And none of our players knew that Corey Perry was just standing on our blue line. So the Oilers aptly just sent it up, and Corey Perry had a free breakaway in which he scored on Joey. So that was a pretty crazy goal. I don't just literally nobody realized that he was back there. Corey Perry just must move extremely quietly, even though he's like 40 years old. I think he'd be out there grunting the entire time. But I don't know. Third period happens. There's a ton of amazing saves by Pickard in this period. It's really like the only highlight I have. He's a former Seattle Thunderbird. I grew up watching him. Had a jersey shirt with Pickard on the back that I used to wear at school every day, which is pretty cool. I think we hung with the Oilers pretty much the whole game. Had it not been for the fluky first goal or the collapse, allowing Perry to be literally by himself on our own blue line, I think we would have tied the game. It would have went to overtime or we win it. The expected goals were 2.8 to 2.75, so pretty even game, like I said, and that includes Perry in all by himself. So that's like probably like 0.5 expected goals right there. He could have easily shored that up. I think the Kraken have been consistently playing better, more disciplined, positionally accurate 5-on-5 hockey. And it's honestly been a sight for sore eyes. I know we talked about in our vibe check how bad everything's been, but honestly, if you go back like 4 or 5 weeks, I think it actually looked a lot worse than it does right now. So I've at least been able to enjoy some of the games that I watch now. I don't think you can really complain about the Oilers game, especially when there's arguably the greatest player of all time, McDavid, on the other side of that. Um, and yeah, they got an empty net goal with 58 seconds, but that's pretty much all she wrote.
I think watching these types of games is more enjoyable than watching more of the bottom feeder teams because you're going into these types of games with zero expectation, which has been nice. You're going against the Oilers, you're going against the Capitals. You're not expected to win. You're just, hoping for a good game. So in this type of game, it was fun to watch. The Kraken are playing a team that's much better than them talent wise throughout. Goaltending is probably a little bit different because Decord is playing, at a much higher level than Picard is this season. But overall, great game, by the Kraken. They did play well. Unfortunately, they're playing just a very, very talented Edmonton Oilers team. And last thing I'll say is the irony that Derek says, "What are you talking about? That Shane Wright doesn't make great plays," and gets a beautiful assist off the first goal. So just thought that was ironic in its own way.
Yeah, not too bummed about this one. It was good to see them hang in there. You just knew that Connor McDavid was going to end up doing something because this was his first game back after that suspension. And most importantly, I'm just bummed that they got a loss in front of the Moms because this was one of the games on the Moms trip. So sad face for that one.
Yeah, they actually looked pretty good through the first 20, like we've talked about. And then I feel like the Oilers, they're just such a great team. And to go into intermission 2-1 is great. But then they let the Oilers have some control in the second. And I feel like that's like what happened is it just turned on a dime right there. They let them have just a little bit of control. And honestly, that's all the Oilers need to sort of just take a game over completely is just a little bit of control. And that's what I feel like they did. Also, the Kraken had 4 power plays, really nothing to say about them either. And like, that's a big problem. 5-on-3 that we didn't convert on, like that should have been a goal for them. The Oilers have a great PK, but at the same time, like those 5-on-3 goals really turn games around, especially for this team. So the fact that they missed that one is just that's a bummer. So I'm not super. I'm like everyone. I'm not super upset about this one. We held our own for a bit, but to let the Oilers get some control is just there's the mistake right there, and power play needs some work. I feel like Coach Campbell's drawing them up, and then they're not executing on them, to be quite honest. So I think that's where we are. I'm going to go on to another game, which is also a loss, but it was game 52 versus the Anaheim Ducks. This was Adam Larson's 900th game, which is quite amazing. He has only missed one game as a Kraken also, which is kind of a cool thing to think about too. And it was so he could see the birth of his child, which is a great reason. So I always love Adam Larson for that. Jared McCann got his 200th NHL assist, which is also cool. But this game, I want to share a quote from Ellie Tolvanen that I think kind of sums up the whole vibe. It was just sloppy puck play. I think we gave them a lot off turnovers defensively, offensively. I think this time of year you can't have that. It stinks. It's unfortunate that I feel like we have to keep talking about this over and over again. We have to help our goalies too. Too many backdoor tap-ins and chances like that. I think it's a reset right here, right now. Also, we're tired of them having to talk about the same thing over and over again. So I was nodding along like, yes, thank you very much, Ellie Tolvanen, for saying that. I also want to say that Phillip Grubauer let in 5 goals on 22 shots, which is just yikes all around. After the game, Coach Baalsma did say about Gru, we hung him out to dry, just too many pucks he didn't have a chance on. Also true, but again, like we were talking about, the goalie is that last line of defense, and at some point he does have to come through a little bit more. So to recap this one, though, Ducks scored first. It was just a minute and 23 into the first. Troy Terry scored with a one-timer. It just went over Gru's glove. Ellie Golvinen tied it up. It was 1-1. Brandon Montour had a great low-to-high feed to Tolvey, and he one-timed it over Dostal's shoulder. At 8:20, Mitchell Stevens gave the Kraken a 2-1 lead, which is really fun because that's his first goal as a Kraken. So we love that. And it was a really cool wraparound goal from below the goal line. He backhanded it off Dostal's blocker and it went right in. So that was cool. Yay for Mitchell Stevens. I'm not sure if I'm going to claim this as my guy, but since everyone else is, we will do that. The Ducks tied it again at 11:59 after a 2-on-1 rush. Gauthier collected his own rebound, got the puck up and over Gru's glove, and then the Kraken took the lead back 3-2 after Schwartz took a cross slot pass from Capo Caco in a 2-on-1 rush to snap the puck right over the glove of the goalie. Pretty cool move from Schwartz there. And also, I'm loving Capo Caco's passes. He is super accurate, and it's really fun to watch him do that. Just a little over a minute into the second, McTavish tied it up for the Ducks with a one-timer from the right circle, so we were sitting at 3-3. And then the Ducks scored again at 5:39 into the second to make it 4-3 with a one-timer off Grubauer's glove. Then at 7:58, Lacombe hit a wrist shot that Gru missed with his glove. I don't know how he missed that one. Just skated through his glove. Not sure. Score was 5-3 at that point. Thank goodness for Coach Campbell and her power play, though. I know I was just talking about how she's drawing it up really well and they're not always executing on it, but here was a time when they did execute on it. And guess who executed on it? It was Shane Wright. It was 6:15 into the third. He slapped a Jared McCann rebound into the open net. Just a beautiful pass, beautiful goal, just beautiful all around. And then that was about it for the Kraken. Vetrano hit the empty net at 18:44 into the third. Final score of 6-4 and a Kraken loss. I mean, I guess good that Gru's mom got to see him play. I will say that. Defense was pretty awful. One of the defensive breakdowns that I thought was just particularly awful, it was Vince Dunn's fault, unfortunately. He tried to make this pass to kind of start a breakaway, and it ended up right on the stick of McTavish. Like, he basically just passed it to him. That was a terrible defensive breakdown. And also, Dunner's game has been a little bit lacking recently. So I'm hoping that he's maybe just going through a little something and he'll come back up here, because we need Dunner if we're going to have any sort of like real chance at winning games. But I feel like they kind of squandered every opportunity to win this one, to be honest. Like, they had chances where they could have just really made a difference and gotten the puck to the net, and they just really didn't do that. So unfortunately, a 6-4 loss against a team that they probably should have beat. So there we go.
Yeah, for me, Vince Dunn was just kind of a big bummer in this one. I feel lots of things were happening on his accord, and especially that clearing chance at the end. He just like, when Derek describes the Chandler Stevenson shot, and he goes, like that's what I imagined. The effort amount that Vince Dunn put into that clearing attempt that just landed on a duck stick and got put in the net. Heather said, good thing that Gru's mom got to see him play. I'll tell you, if my mom saw me play a game like that, it'd be a really quiet ride home in the back of the minivan, and we would not be going through the McDonald's drive-thru on the way home. So, yay for her. I hope she enjoyed some of the nachos in that press box that the moms got to hang out in, but that could not have been a great time for him. But glad she was able to make the trip all the way over from Germany. And I wanted to highlight Mitchell Stevens. We always love when one of Heather's guys has a positive showing. And I was going to say you got to love when the young kids step up, but I just looked on ESPN and he's 27, so he's not young. So way to go, mid-20s, Mitchell Stevens. You did great, kid.
That's why it's his first goal as a Kraken, not his first NHL goal. We've got to be very specific about that.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, I mean, having 5 goals scored that quickly, there were only about 1.0 expected goals at the time of there being 5 goals against. So it's just really, you can't have that. I agree with Matt about Vince Dunn at the end. That was insane. I hated that so much. That was not one of the good ands. That was a bad for sure, for sure. I honestly think Matt calling somebody not young is crazy. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Mitchell Stevens, Heather's guy, popping off. He might just be a late bloomer. I don't know. But horrible game. It's the one that destroyed Gru's career, most likely. It's the nail in the coffin game. We might remember it forever as a nightmare. And yeah, it just kind of sucks. So I'm ready to move on.
I'm going to spare Grubauer from commenting on this, on any Grubauer commenting on this one. Bad game, but this was defensively atrocious. It was an abomination. The irony that this defensive core can be like top 3 in NHL scoring, but be just downright horrible at defending is, I'm absolutely lost by this, because this team cannot defend at all. And they do leave both goaltenders out to dry, and that's the issue. The difference is that Decord has made godlike saves and Grubauer has not, and that's the difference. You can't do much when you can't defend. And yes, Grubauer is the last line of defense as a goaltender, and you need him to be able to make saves when he can. But if Vince Dunn is literally giving the puck to the Ducks wrapped up in a bow and says, "Here, Mr. Duck," it's game over. Like, you ain't gonna win. You're not gonna win. And I think the other depressing thing is that the Ducks aren't good. Like, they're so much like us in the basement of the NHL. When you just get handed a sandwich that is just downright sad and depressing, like, this is what happens. It's just a bad game overall. But on a positive, we're gonna go to game 53. Really the battle of the mid. It was the Seattle Kraken against the San Jose Sharks in a 6-2 win. This was actually a stream game for us, and our record is a glorious 9-2-2. So we realistically are the good luck charm for the Seattle Kraken because this team has 27 losses. 27. We have streamed 13 games and we've witnessed 2 regulation losses and 2 overtime losses. So I'm not streaming every game, but like, we're clearly a good luck charm because that record is absolutely incredible for the record that the Kraken have. The Kraken played like a hungry and determined team against one of the worst, if not the worst team in the NHL. So at least we had that to look forward to, and we got to witness that. So 3:55 into the first period, Chandler Stevenson gets out on the break from a beautiful pass by Tolvanen and gets it past Askarov to give the Kraken a 1-0 lead. Just absolutely beautiful. And Stevenson has really been able to get those breaks out. A lot of his goals this season have been in that type of fashion. So it's been really nice to see. Totally overpaid, not a top 500 guy, but it is what it is. San Jose tied the game late in the first when a poor defensive lapse allows Carl Gunstrom to step in front and get one past Decord. Decord couldn't do much on this one. Complete defensive breakdown. It seems like that's the running theme this season, where defensively we just completely fall apart, and it is what it is. The second comes along, and the Kraken literally wake up. They don't just score 1 goal, but they score 4 goals unanswered. So Ollie Bjorkstrand scores his 15th of the season when sitting net front. It's ironic. Those are the type of goals that we've been asking for. So when they actually can do it, you go, oh, they can do that. So that happened. Montour is next, scoring his 9th of the season from a beautiful wrister from the point. Again, Mr. 17 again, Jaden Schwartz scores his team-leading 18th goal after exiting the penalty box and getting a sweet feed from Jamie Olesiak all the way down to the Kraken end and goes out on the breakaway and gets a goal. Jaden Schwartz, I wish you were healthy your entire Kraken career because he is a goal-scoring threat, and it's been really nice to see this year. And I'm going to hate it when we trade you at the trade deadline because I feel like it's going to happen. Things got a little feisty at 13:21 in the second period when all hell broke loose and Vince Dunn took things into his own hands, literally. If you haven't watched that fight, he absolutely pulverized the San Jose player. And this is the type of fight that we've actually been waiting to see from the Kraken. Like, I know we're talking about the Kraken and the Sharks. Like, it's really not like a statement game. Like, they're both bad teams, but like the Kraken were pissed. Like the Kraken, like in that moment, like all 5 players were in this scrum. Like normally you're just watching like one player get pushed around by 3 opposing players while the other 4 Kraken just kind of sit there and go, oh, something's happening. But like that was completely different. The Kraken were absolutely fuming here and they were just pushing around all 5 of them. Like it was quite a joy to actually witness. And then adding Dunn to the whole mix and just absolutely laying fists was great. So finally, Brandon Montour scored his 10th and the second of the game on some PP magic, giving the Kraken a 5-1 lead heading into the third. The Sharks managed to get one back when Tyler Toffoli was able to get one past Joey. However, that's all that the Sharks would be able to score. And to top things off, Eeli Tolvanen finished off the Sharks, scoring his 15th goal of the season and securing a 6-2 win for the Kraken. Joey Decord had another impressive game. saving 26 of 28 shots and finishing off with a 929 save percentage. It's just so depressing watching Joey Decord have some magical years with the Kraken and just playing at an elite level on such a mediocre team.
I just remembered that ESPN had Ryan Winterton listed as a defenseman. I just thought of that and it made me laugh.
I hope he
He
recovers quickly from his injury that he's out with.
yes, Riker Evans and Ryan Winterton, that famous defensive pair that were both scratches that night. I love it. ESPN doing the bare minimum to show they care about teams. Um, Going into this game, the Sharks had lost 9 of their last 11 games. They also had a ton of injuries, so it's like, we should win this game, but I think we also have to come to the reality that the Kraken just aren't great either. So sometimes we don't even put the effort in to beat the worst teams, like the Ducks, for example. So a win was just nice. It was so needed. I think, especially after the Grubauer news, the team was pretty. I don't know. It was like an emotional 48 hours, I feel like, when they were getting the news about Grubauer's waivers, and then that shakes up the locker room. And I feel like they really needed this. Also, the game was kind of low stress. You know how like sometimes we sit here and we're kind of stressed that like the team's going to take the lead and we're going to lose. I didn't feel that this game at all. I was like they had a pretty good, lead going on, and I don't know, it just wasn't stressed. So I actually really liked that. There was no feeling of being a few seconds away from disaster. So I'm going to call that a total win too. The second period was fantastic. Just really piled on the goals. That was super fun. Vince Dunn beating the crap out of that player was also great. It's kind of like just don't draw blood on Dunner because he just goes berserk. Like something about that, he just like loses his mind, and I love it. Lastly, I did see that Parking Lot by Travis Scott was playing in the locker room after that win, and I feel like that's their new pattern of song playing after they win. Not that we get to hear that too often, but I always like to hear those little details. It's really fun. So I think that's all I got on that one.
All I'm gonna say is thank God for Joey Decord, because if this was Grubauer again, we probably lose like 10-6. Number two is this game we streamed it, but they scored so quickly at the beginning of the second that like second half of the game was just like so I don't know, just like okay, like let's just turn this game off. Okay. So yeah, I mean now we're at a point where the losses suck and the wins suck. So no, I'm just kidding. Um yeah, no, but for real, I mean it's cool that we ran up the tally. Expected goals were 2.88 to 2.08 Kraken. Not great against such a bad team. It's honestly a similar distribution to the Ducks game. It's just kind of like roles reversed, I guess, on who's finding success in the net. But I mean, we had 5 goals by the time we had like 1.3 expected goals. So I mean, it was Georgiev, right? And then Askarov or Askarov was subbed in. So I mean, we're dealing. Honestly, I thought it was cool. A lot of the Kraken players, like Tolvanen and all those guys that were on the playoff team, like going against Georgiev again. It's like that's who we owned in the first round of the playoffs, and it's like maybe that's why we won that series. Maybe the Kraken just know how to score on Georgiev. I was thinking that. So there's something to.
For me, the big takeaway is hell yeah, new kids. Because Brendan Montour having a 2 goal game, we were frantically searching during the game in the Google machine, seeing how many players have scored multi-hat trick games in a season. Didn't come up with anything, but it didn't happen, so that's fine. Chandler Stevenson, a goal and 2 assists. We love seeing that. And yeah, this is just a fun one. It's always fun when we have a positive feeling at the end of the stream. And 9-2-2 is nothing to be too upset about. And you can't even say that we're cherry picking the teams that we've been up against because we have wins over Vegas and Carolina and our overtime loss to Winnipeg. Like we're spacing out our teams that we're playing against to have some variety. So the fact that we can keep pulling off these wins on stream is pretty exciting to me. And we roll now into game 54, which was last night at the time of this recording against the Calgary Flames, and just an absolutely weird game. This was this was just a fever dream for me. And that might have been because of the extra strength cold medication that I was on, but it was just a strange one. It was a 3-2 loss in the end. This was the second game of a back-to-back for the Flames, who were coming off a loss to Detroit the night prior. Dan Vladar was in net for the Flames, coming into this game with a record of 5-1-1 against the Kraken, but he had losses in his last 6 games. So it's a real coin toss. We're going to get the last 6 games version of Vladar, or the he owns the Kraken version of Vladar. It looked like the scoring opened with a Jaden Schwartz power play goal, but a successful coach's challenge from the Flames bench had it overturned for goaltender interference. Jaden Schwartz just backed a little too into the crease, and the goaltender's stick got caught up in his skates, and they determined that impeded him too much, so that got overturned, which was a huge bummer. Instead, the first goal of the night came from Morgan Frost, who was playing in his second game for the Flames since being traded from Philadelphia earlier last week. Later in the period, Andrei Burakovsky got absolutely leveled by an open ice hit, which drew Jared McCann in for a fight. I'm just going to say, I don't know how every bone in Berkey's body didn't shatter when he got leveled like that. We loved the hit that Mahura dished out last week, and this just looked like it was way rougher than that. But on his way to the box, McCann was favoring his hand and wrist, which got me super nervous, but he did end up playing the rest of the game, so hopefully there's nothing too much there, just maybe a little bit of a stinger. On the ensuing power play, Igor Sharangovich nailed it, was streaking into the net, took a slash from Jamie Alexiak, and then the puck trickled through before any Kraken player could touch the puck for the delayed penalty. The Seattle bench felt confident there was a goaltending interference with Joey, with his stick hitting Joey's stick and pulling his glove arm out of the way. Unfortunately, the call did not go our way, resulting in Oliver Bjorkstrand joining Big Rig in the box and putting the Flames on a 5-on-3. And I'm just going to pull up quick. Alison Lucan tweeted out the justification for this call. It said, after a video review, it was determined that the stick-on-stick contact between Calgary and Seattle was an attempt to play a loose puck and did not constitute goaltender interference. The decision was made in accordance with Rule 69.7, which states, in part, the goal on the ice should have been allowed because in a rebound situation or where a goalkeeper or attacking players are simultaneously attempting to play a loose puck, whether inside or outside the crease, incidental contact will be permitted, and any goal that is scored as a result thereof will be allowed. So it was justified in the rule taking. Still don't like it. And because we failed that coach's challenge, we got an extra body in the box. The Flames took full advantage of this, with Huberdeau sending a one-timer over Joey's glove to make it 3-0. The second period was mostly uneventful, but there was a good amount of offensive pressure from the Kraken. The Kraken finally got on the board for real this time when Jaden Schwartz and Capo Caco were able to capitalize on a 2-on-1 that Caco put into the back of the net. And this play was Jaden Schwartz's 300th career assist, which is a fun milestone. 5 minutes into the third period, the Kraken took advantage of an icing call that Calgary wasn't too pleased with. Jared McCann received the Shane Wright faceoff. What? Shane Wright starting up an awesome play? Sent the shot at the net, and Brandon Tanev tipped it in to make it a 1-goal game. And this was a very solid effort. A solid effort with Joey out of the net to end the game, notably with Brandon Montour laying out to take away the empty net goal from the Flames. Unfortunately, Shane Wright caught a Calgary player with a high stick, which took away the advantage that we had. However, they were showing some serious grit and determination right till the very end, rushing down, and Jared McCann almost had a goal-making play, but if it had gone in, it surely would have just been a kicking play and blown down. But just an overall weird, weird game.
I'm not one to normally like blame refs for a game. Like I feel like there's a little bit of like hockey karma, where plays aren't called and it comes back around. But this one just, I don't know. It was pretty egregious. Like at one point, Bjorky's stick got pulled out from his hands and nothing. Monty was pushed down at one point, nothing. Kako was tripped, nothing. And like all three of those players, like good on them because they were over to the refs, like giving them some words. Because it's like, how much do you have to take? It just was one of those times where officiating really went against us, and we just paid for that. I feel like that was one of those times when it was a little past hockey karma. So maybe we're gonna have a game coming up where like nothing's called on us. I don't know. I mean, I can only hope. That's all I hope for in these games. But they really did try to come back, and they had a nice push in the second period. Vladar was great that night. I just feel like he's great against us, like against the Kraken. Like he just has this. He's just really great against us. So that's something else too. I don't know. It's just a strange game. There was also that weird icing call. Like McCann touched the puck. It had barely like crossed the goal line. But then Shane Wright won the faceoff and got the puck back to Canner, and then Turbo getting that goal. Like that was just a great response to weird officiating, I feel like. A cool little milestone on the night that was Kraken's equipment manager Jeff Camiello's 2000th professional game. Players all walked in with shirts that had his face on them, and they did this great little tribute video to them. So I really liked that. It's such an important part of the team. So that also was a win on the night for the team to do that as well.
The refs obviously in this one were not friends with the Kraken. Everything going against them, it sucks. But honestly, the first period also just started so sloppily. Like near the end of the first period, when we had those penalty kills on the chart here, the expected goals chart, right? We were up to like 4 expected goals against at that point, like late first period, and like we're usually allowing only like 2 or 2.5 in a game, and this is like 4 before the end of the first period's done. Really Joey standing on his head, or this would have been like 5-0 by the end of the first period. Pretty insane. And obviously like they had to interfere with Joey just to get some of those in, but obviously I think the Flames worked this in the first. The rest of the game it looked more like a battle. But yeah, I mean, just got to start better than that.
2 quick points. One, I am absolutely terrified. We're going to burn Joey Decord out because he has to stand on his head every single game. So that makes me worried. Point number 2, what in the hell is goaltender interference? Because I don't know. The refs don't know. Toronto sure as hell doesn't know. And I don't think the NHL rulebook knows anymore. So those are my 2 points for the night. And we're just going to go down to Coachella and talk about the desert dialogues. Weekly recap when it comes to the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and we're going to dissect the games. So the first game happened on Sunday, January 26th against the Bakersfield Condors in a 3-2 loss. No score from the Firebirds in the first, but there was a goal by Yager Furcus at 16:03 into the second, with assist by Max Lejoie and Brandon Biro, and a goal by Ryan Winterton at 6:38 into the third, with assist from David Goyette and Nick Brouillard. Despite the loss, Winterton was third star that night because his goal was an absolute beauty. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it if you have access to it.
And then the Firebirds played on Wednesday, January 29th against the Abbotsford Canucks. It was a 5-2 win. Neither team scored in the first, but the Canucks took the lead with 2 goals in the second to the Firebirds' 1 goal. But that one Firebirds goal was scored by Yager Furcus at 8:03 into the second. And then the Firebirds scored 4 goals in 3 minutes and 13 seconds in the third to put the game away. I mean, I love this kind of stuff because we see it occasionally from the Kraken, but we see it a lot from the AHL teams, and it's so fun. So Nick Brouillard scored at 1:41 into the third, assist from Yanni Newman and Ryan Winterton. Ben Myers scored at 2:44, assist from Daniel Sprong and Nick Brouillard. And then Daniel Sprong scored 3:22 into the third with assists from Logan Morrison and Ben Myers. And then Jacob Melanson scored at 4:54 into the third with assists from Ryan Winterton and Max Lejoie. This was Coco's 13th win of the season. He stopped 28 of 30 shots, and the Firebirds were 4 for 4 on the penalty kill and 3 for 6 on the power play.
Next game was Friday, January 31st at the Texas Stars in a 2-1 overtime win. It took until the third period for the Firebirds to get on the board, but they did have a killer penalty kill throughout the night, 4 for 4 on the night, to keep the game within 1 until the third period. At 11:28 in the third, Nick Brouillard was able to tie the game at 1-1, assist from Logan Morrison and Yanni Neiman. The game went to overtime, but 3 minutes and 12 seconds into it, Ben Myers was able to get the win for the Firebirds. His goal had assists from Ryan Winterton, his 15th assist of the season, and Luke Henman. Coco stopped 18 of 19 shots, and the Firebirds were 3 for 6 on the power play. So some strong PP action for the Firebirds this game.
And then last game before the All-Star break was Saturday, February 1st at the Texas Stars. This was a 3-2 overtime win. And of note in this game, it was Phillip Grubauer's first game with the Firebirds. It was his first AHL game since May 15th, 2015, when he played with Hershey. Took him a bit to settle in. Not going to lie about that, but he did stop all 15 Texas shots in the second period. So once he did settle in, he did play well. Two former Firebirds, Cameron Hughes and Cole Lind, scored in the first period. I just had to share that because it's like two former Firebirds scoring on Phillip Grubauer. Just something about that was a little bit sad. But Ben Myers responded 44 seconds after that Cole Lind goal with his 14th goal of the season. Assists were Yanni Newman and John Hayden. And the only goal in the second was a Firebirds goal by Yanni Newman, his 17th of the season. Assists from Ben Myers and Logan Morrison. And no goals in the third, so the game went to OT. And the hero of the night was Daniel Sprong with the OT winner, a minute and 53 seconds into bonus hockey. Max Lajoie had his 20th assist of the season on Sprong's goal, and Ben Myers had his 19th assist. Firebirds were 2 for 3 on the penalty kill and 1 for 2 on the power play. And going into the All-Star break, Firebirds record moves to 24-15, 1-5 on the season and 12-8, 1-1 on the road. So, like I said, they are on the AHL All-Star break. So they only have one game upcoming, which is Friday, February 7th at the San Diego Gulls. And the top Firebirds for the week, we have Ben Myers, who has 33 points in 37 games. Yanni Newman, our AHL All-Star, has 29 points in 44 games played. And Ryan Winterton has 27 points in his 36 games played.
So AHL standings going into the AHL All-Star break, the Firebirds are second in the Pacific Division with 54 points and 45 games played. That puts them just behind the Calgary Wranglers, who have 60 points in 45 games played. The Ontario Reign aren't far behind with 54 points in their 42 games played. It's tight. It's really close. It's going to be a nail biter right down to the end. These teams in this division just seem to swap places all the time. I don't think this division is going to be decided until the very last couple games of the season.
And with that, we're now going to take a seat around the sound table. Our weekly deep dive into all things hockey related outside of the Seattle Kraken organization. Starting off with topic number 1. This is kind of the big hockey-wide news item this week. On Friday, Elliot Friedman reported that the upcoming salary cap estimates from the NHL and NHLPA, the figures are as follows. In the 25-26 season, it'll be $95.5 million. 26-27 will be $104 million, and 27-28 season will be $113.5 million. So I have two questions. My first question, does this mean that the Kraken internet community can finally stop complaining about the Chandler Stephen contract? And my second question, what do you hope that Ron Francis does, or whoever replaces him does, with this expanded checkbook?
The internet community, when it comes to the Kraken, will always complain about Chandler Stevenson, even though the salary cap increase going into next season will basically erase his contract from the books, hypothetically speaking, when it comes to that increase. Like his contract's going to be is nothing. Like, what is it, like five something? It's not much. So like 95 million, it's not much. 104 million, it's really not much. And 113 million, it's like pennies. I'm not worried about it. It's by the time his contract's over, like the salary cap's going to be like 135 million, and we're going to be like, we really complained about a $5 million contract for Chandler Stevenson. It's nothing. One, I hope to God Ron Francis isn't making the decisions when it comes to signing players, and I hope they're smart. They don't need to reach the cap ceiling. Play it smart. Sell assets where you can, and develop your youth. If a player comes along that fits the mold of the team and wants to play for the Kraken, and you can get him in at a good dollar figure, then you look into it. But other than that, pay players respectively and suck for the next couple of years, so then we can have some young talent come in, and when we're a developed side and a free agent becomes available, you can literally throw him a checkbook that says, write your own number. We have a ton of space.
Yes, they are still going to complain because that's how it works, unfortunately. But and we could go back and forth of like contract value versus, production down the line. I'm not talking about the season, but down the line, we're getting close to those 6-7 years. But yeah, they'll still complain. What will Ron Francis do with the expanded checkbook? Well, like Alex said, hopefully we don't have Ron Francis doing that, but I don't know. But I do think it is time to revamp and suck for a couple of years so we can get these younger players playing. So whatever it takes to do that, use the checkbook for that, please.
Yeah, interesting. Honestly, a way to do that, I think, is we talked about this last episode too. Reserving space in our cap to be able to retain when good teams are trading, similar to what Chicago did. So if we are going to be bad next year, that's also a possibility too. I'll leave 15 mil open. So then, when Mikko Rantanen gets traded again back to Colorado, we can retain like 75% of the contract and just get like a first round pick out of it or something. I don't know.
All right, next up, coming back around to something else we talked about last week, there's Utah Hockey Club naming update. The team has abandoned their original hopes and plan for the Yeti as a team name and have moved on to three final options, which fans have the opportunity to vote on over the next series of home games. First is to remain with the Utah Hockey Club. Second is the Utah Mammoth, and third is the Utah Outlaws, which replaced the Utah Wasatch in their initial announcement due to fan demand. Today, there was a leak of the logos and jerseys of these team names, and I'm mostly underwhelmed as they look like something that was made in an NHL 24 creative team mode.
I don't know if you have seen them, and if you haven't, it's literally a copy and paste from Chell. They're the same logos, and I don't know if you've seen it. There was the NHL, I think it was the Twitter account or their Instagram account says, "Wow, these don't look familiar at all," being like, "These are literal carbon copies of what we have in our game." So, yeah, pretty embarrassing to say the least.
I thought they were like fake mock-ups at first. Like when I saw them before I like read the caption, then I was like, official logos? Are you kidding me? Like I literally thought it was a joke. I thought it was just like, oh, these are like kind of just little mock-ups of potentials. No, no, official? Wow. Okay. They're all terrible.
The Outlaws one is just so bad. It looks like it'd be on like a flag football team uniform for like a team named the Bandits or something like that that a 7-year-old would wear. Just horrible.
And it also takes away like all the excitement of being like, what's our logo gonna look like? If they choose the Outlaws, they're gonna be like, oh, we get like this wannabe cowboy with a bandana over his face. I can't wait. Like, there's no excitement in that, and like that's kind of disappointing in its own way. Like, go back to the drawing board, choose your team name, and then like design that logo so like you can really wow fans.
Yeehaw.
When I think Utah, I think yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
All right, also coming back around to another topic from last week. Remember last week when I said that the Vancouver Canucks weren't doing their announcing teams any favors by having two Elias Petterssons on the same team? Well, they certainly aren't helping with the addition of Marcus Pettersson to the team. Now all they have to do is just add Oscar Pettersson from the Senators and Lucas Pettersson from the Ducks, and they will have a complete lineup of Petterssons that they can put on the ice. No, you don't want that to happen? I think
I
that'd be
did see the
hilarious.
jerseys, how they have like Pettersson, E. Pettersson, M. Pettersson.
And
Like
there's a lot
that's
of
wild.
discourse right now about like what nicknames they're gonna go by, and there's lots of people saying, "Oh no, I don't like this nickname. I'm trying to change it." So just a fun bunch of shenaniganery over there in Vancouver. But in more Vancouver Canucks news, JT Miller was finally traded away from the team after quite a lengthy stretch of drama with the Canucks. Miller joined the New York Rangers and scored 2 goals in his first game back with his former team. Because of these points, Miller is on a 3 game point streak with the Rangers, with the point streak spanning over 2,500 days, which that has to be some sort of record for longest gap or longest running point streak. Following the Minnesota Wild's 4-0 shutout over the Montreal Canadiens on Thursday, Marc-Andre Fleury recorded his 76th career shutout. This result means that Flower is the first goaltender in NHL history to record a shutout as a teenager and at 40 years old or older. This makes him tied for 10th all-time in career shutouts, tied with Tony Esposito and Ed Belfour, and only one behind Roberto Luongo. So see, Derek, old guys can still do something.
Yeah, this just makes every age group feel bad about themselves if you think about it. Because, you got the young people thinking like 16, 17. Oh, I'm so young, like I could never be expected to do that. It's like, well, he did. And it's like, oh, well, I'm 8 years over 32. I should never be expected to do that. Like 32 is when, you drop off. And no, he's able to do it. So it just makes everybody feel bad.
Just want to say thanks, Derek. I can't wait to drop off in the next couple months when I turn 32. Uh, but if you haven't seen a photo of Marc-Andre Fleury when he started in the NHL at the age of like 18, like he's literally a child. And to see him now, like, I'm going to miss this man in the NHL so much. He's just a joy to watch. So it's going to be an absolute shame when he hangs them up officially at the end of the season, because he's mentioned it that he could not do this, sail off into the sunset for another season. I think he's ready to, call it quits. But what a career.
And in PWHL news, the Montreal Victoires' Marie-Philippe Poulin recorded the first hat trick of the season and is the first player in PWHL history to record this achievement twice. Also, we missed it last week, but the PWHL Takeover Tour continued with a stop in Quebec City at the Videotron Center for a matchup between Montreal and Ottawa. Montreal took the 2-1 victory in front of a sold-out crowd of 18,259 spectators. Another amazing turnout on this potential expansion tour. That is, like we have always said week to week, something that we absolutely love to see. And to round out the sound table this week, we conclude with OV Record Watch. Alexander Ovechkin is currently sitting at 877 goals, only 17 away from catching up to Wayne Gretzky's record of 894. He's got to pick up the pace here. And with that, Heather, do you want to let the folks know what our week ahead looks like?
The Kraken play on Tuesday, February 4th versus the Detroit Red Wings, and we are streaming this one. So very excited to see you all back. Also, happy Black History Month. It's also Black History Night, and those jerseys are beautiful. So if you're going to CPA, please enjoy seeing those, or I guess at least see them walking in with them, since that's all we're allowed to do now. But they are really beautiful, and I'm very, very excited for that. And then Thursday, February 6th, they play versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Saturday, February 8th at the Calgary Flames. And then it is the Four Nations break. So excited for that. I guess maybe we are doing a little wager since you're trying to get me back for my Zoom backgrounds. Team USA all the way. But you have big shoes to fill to make better Zoom backgrounds than me. That's all I have to say. So we'll see.
And Derek, do you want to let the folks know where they can find us this week?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do that, I just want to say make sure to subscribe to the YouTube and leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this. We also have a brand new, I guess you could call it collection on our store, bit.ly/BTW store. We have, MJ, back in the days, he sensational. A lot of good branding there. Who is the MJ of our time though? The one and only Joey Decord, and so we are honoring him being the modern day Jordan with his own Jordan logo that we have on shirts, hats, coffee mugs, dog bandanas, whatever you want. It's all there. So where you can find us for all that good stuff, and to subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, anything, right? I'll just translate it for the Canadians out there. We have two Canadians of our own, so I'll translate it. BTWSE, eh? That's where to find us, BTWSE, eh? Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.
We going beneath the